Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. The flat is very much back, and the flat turf season is anyway, because that is what we are previewing today between Donny and Kempton. We'll kick off with the Lincoln. Of course, it's Grand National Week next week. That Aintree Festival starts on Thursday, so we'll have two podcasts for you. So we'll be focusing back on the jumps then, obviously. But this is very much about the flat action this weekend. And what the Lincoln does provide you with is a very difficult to solve, but good opportunity 22 runner handicap to get stuck into. And we've got the Spring Mile as well, and we've got plenty more besides. Joined by Steve Jones and Micheál Deasy. Just a reminder of the current offer. Pod 50 is the code you need to use. You bet 50, you get 50 in free bets. You need to bet and settle a total of £50 or more across at least 4 different bets. They can be on singles, multiples, bet builders. Each must have a minimum odds of 2.0. And each qualifying bet must be placed on a separate event. But it's your way of getting 50 in free bets for betting 50. Simple as that. So use the code POD50. More T's and C's are on the website. You can like, follow and subscribe wherever you're listening. Best no-cost way of supporting the podcast. So please do that. It's very important to us if you like our content. Okay, let's get stuck in then. DC, welcome along. Hope you're all good. And the Lincoln would be sort of your bag, wouldn't it? Chance to find some prices?
Yeah, I like the Lincoln. The main thing I like about the flat is that doing the research and watching the replays on it takes about 40 seconds each, which is great. Speeds things up a lot.
That's why when everyone asks if I prefer flat or jumps, I'm like, well, no, I work in racing flat because you don't have to watch. You don't have to watch 7 minutes per race.
Yeah. I look forward to the Lincoln every year. Good race this year. I had my shortlist down to about 7, and I'm going to put up 2. The first one is Whipcracker, Richard Hughes' horse. Ran a very good race in the Lincoln trial last time. He was not favourite. Finished 4th, just a little bit down, but he came from midfield, ran on well, as it says here now, but wouldn't say he was absolutely killed the horse to win the race. It was a nice opener to the season for him. Should put him spot on for this, and Richard Hughes is absolutely flying. Didn't have much form last year, but they gelded him halfway through the season, came back and ran some good races there towards the end of the season on heavy ground. I'd say it's probably going to be on the softer side of good to soft. It won't be any better than good to soft anyway. That should be fine for him. And as I said, look, Richard Hughes is absolutely flying at the moment. And the other one then, it was between this one and Latham, and I've come down on this guy, and I'm probably going to be wrong now, but it's Toy Son, Davin Munizzi's horse. Again, he finished off the season very, very well last year. He actually went into my notebook the day he lost to Godwin's son. I know he'd won at the Glorious Goodwood Festival, but he ran again a few weeks later and absolutely flew home. Then he finished 3rd in the Cambridgeshire and finished off the season running good in the Balmoral. So I wouldn't say that he has loads up his sleeve in terms of his rating, but he's a good, solid handicapper horse. Davin Munizzi is well able to get them ready for this meeting. He won the Lincoln Migration, I think it was 2 seasons ago. He's one I watched again. I think conditions will suit him. So I'm going to go for the 2 of them, Whipcracker and Toy Son. They're both 13.0.
Okay, they're shortened up a bit since you put them in the dock there yesterday, but they still fair prices. Just one for you, Steve. How are you, Jonesy?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Thomas. Glad that you like you've got no attention span, have you? That's why you like the Dubai stuff and everything. You just over very quickly. But looking forward to it, because you do get a lot of chances to back horses at big prices, especially double figure prices in these big flat handicaps. I'm going to go for a man who has won as many Lincolns as anybody. He holds the joint record for the amount of Lincoln wins in 4. That's William Haggis. He holds that record with Jack Robinson, a man that everyone knows trained in the late 1800s. And he's got Godwinson in here, who I think has been overlooked in the betting. I think about 15 at the moment. And Godwinson's got a bit of an in and out record, but he did run very well first time out last season when runner-up in the Newbury Spring Cup, which is kind of where a lot of these horses that do well in the Lincoln will end up at Newbury in a few weeks. And then he didn't perform particularly well next start, but then over 1.2 miles at York, he ran really well from off the pace in a race where it paid to be closer to the pace. What at Goodwood, and then there were excuses in the Cambridgeshire where he's badly drawn, and on Champions Day in the Balmoral when the ground was desperate. He's just the type that William Haggis does really well with. As a 5-year-old, I expect improvement, and he's still nicely treated on that Newbury Spring Cup form. And I also like the fact that he's shown he stays 10 furlongs. The Lincoln and the Spring Mile is often won by a horse who's shown that kind of level of form over 10 furlongs. For me, it's more of a stamina test, even though the ground is going to be perhaps better than it is sometimes on Lincoln Day. But you do need stamina in this race, in my opinion. You don't want to be a 7 furlong horse stepping up in trip. You want to be a horse who's shown it over 10. So Godwinson is my fancy. And you look thrilled.
No, sorry, I was taking on board what you said about stamina. I agree. I think you want a horse that, because they tend to go pretty hard. I think you want a horse that stays this a little bit more. I've got a couple of silly ones because this time of year I'm about silly prices really, and just having smaller stakes on prices. I find April tricky, to be honest, and October. But the two I want to have against the field are, the first is the proper case, which is Sean. I think Sean's a really good, genuinely. This race has a history of horses coming back from Dubai and running well, and sometimes winning the race. They're race fit, hard fit from Dubai. It can definitely be a plus. Now, Sean's £3 well in off the back of his second to Arabian Light, and he ran to 105, 106, definitely in the race won by Nation's Pride last time. He's officially £3 well in. You can definitely see it. The Arabian Light form is strong when he was second off this mark over 9. And last year was all about them trying to get his handicap mark down, where he ran well. He ran well up 108 at Sandown over 10, and I don't think he quite stayed it. I'm not worried about the draw too much because that will just play out during the day. It might be right, it might be wrong in 9, but he was 41.0. Honestly, he will outrun that by a long way. I think that's a very, very good bet. The Berringer, who might not be such a good bet, but he was around 101.0. I think he's might be a bit short now. Look, he's not been seen for 2 years. If you go back to his Lord North Cambridgeshire run off 97, he's well treated off 92. He'd be well treated off 97, but he had a couple of goes since, and then he was off again with injury. He's obviously fragile. I'm just going to take the view that he's now owned by Alan King and Niall Farrell, so Alan's kept him in the yard. He's a 10-year-old. They're not going to be lining up here, I don't think, to try and feel their way through a busy season because he's obviously fragile. He's 10. I just think they might have 1 or 2 darts this season. And I just want him on side just in case, because I can't let him go off unbacked at that sort of price. It's not the strongest, most case full of conviction, but I don't want him to go unbacked because we know he's capable. And we'll see how he goes. DC's really good. DC, you know.
You're breaking up for me there now. Hello.
Yeah, I got to ask the question, DC.
What do you think of a case based on official ratings from 3 years ago, Steve?
Well, yeah, I could say a lot at this point, but it's just official ratings are pointless, aren't they? But hey, I do like the fact that the horse has got stamina. So yeah, good old Tommy. I'm not gonna slag Tommy off on air. I'll wait until afterwards.
Yeah.
Now, good news is that we've got a bet in the Brocklesbury because Steve Jones's bag for me or D. So good on Brocklesbury, Steve.
Right, the Brocklesbury, obviously the first 2-year-old race of the season. So we've got no form to go on. But what you do need, a lot of these horses in here will probably come into their own over a bit further as you want a speed in this. I'm going to throw in Sucking Diesel, who's got a very speedy pedigree and a pretty promising pedigree related to lots of decent sprinters. For Alice Haynes, who, I would associate with quite early horses. Her horses are running fine. She gets a lot of 2-year-old winners. And Suckling Diesel is half sister to 4 a Day, who was a good sprinter. And I'm going to chuck in Johnny Portman's Son of Sarabi at a massive price, who again has got a really speedy pedigree. And Johnny Portman, he won the Super Sprint not so long ago. And he's another trainer who can get 2-year-olds winning. So that's just 2 darts at the board, basically. But hopefully they'll look littler darts and not my darts for the corner cupboard Pirates dart team. So hopefully those 2 will run well, but it is a bit of a guess, of course.
Okay, Spring Mile. DC, you kick us off. Then Steve, you pick straight off the back. I'm just going to jump out and in again just to try and get a better connection. So DC and Steve, take it away, both of you, on the Spring Mile, please.
Yeah, again, I had a few for this. Who did I go for in the end? So I know. Oh yeah. Pressure's on for Ed Dunlop, but he's second favourite for this. I suppose what caught my eye about him was, look, in his last run, he finished second, staying on very well from the back. But in his run at the end of last season, which was his first win of the season, was a notable improvement. They said they changed tactics. He was a front runner and he won the race, won it well. So I just thought it was interesting that last time they dropped him in. He ran a fine race. He's up a pound for this. I don't think he was ever getting into Lincoln, but he's at the squeezing in at the bottom of this. There's plenty in this, but I thought he was the most solid of them all. I think he's about 9.0, so I'll stick with him. Yeah. You're muted.
I'm going to go for another horse who's got proven stamina in Spirit of Aklam, who's trained by Mick Easterby and David Easterby. Incredibly, because this Spring Mile is obviously the consolation race for the horse that didn't get in the Lincoln. And Mick Easterby is trying to win this race 52 years after his brother last won the Lincoln, Peter Easterby. So Britain's oldest trainer, Mick Easterby, and his son David, for me, with Spirit of Aklam, who won a couple of novice races as a 2-year-old, the last race of 2023, and then first time up last season. Although that was just a novice and he made all it odds on, it still shows that he can go well fresh. And later in the season, he certainly ran really well again when fresh. He missed most of the summer last year. He wasn't seen until October after running in May previously I think that's the London Gold Cup, which is a red hot race. Yeah, it is the London Gold Cup. And albeit he finished last in that, then he was put away and he didn't come back until Ayr in October, when he ran really well to finish a close third in a race that I think the form was okay. So a horse that goes well fresh, stays well, has been gelded over the winter, which often brings out improvement. Cheap pieces on for the first time. Joe Mason's riding really well, who's Mick's granddaughter. So Spirit of Aklam, I think, is very interesting, off a low weight in the Spring Mile.
And in that one, Tom is putting up Ocean of Dreams. Archie Watson's horse. I'll let him make the. Oh, here he is. I was just making your case for Ocean of Dreams in the Spring Mile, Tom. Let you take it away.
Yeah, look, I just thought you could make a case based on the previous form. It wouldn't surprise me if he's got him absolutely revved up and ready to roll first up. So it's a loose one. Again, I'm not sure on the draw. I think we'll get that developing throughout the day, but it's a not very strong win place case. It would be my honest answer at 11.0.
With the Valley Sacks last year, second favourite.
Yeah, Yeah. I reckon it could be a smart buy. I reckon they just have the horse absolutely revved and ready to go first up. But yeah, it could be a bad shout, but I'll give it a go. So Ocean of Dreams, I take it you've done yours. So Camage Trophy next. Nothing for me in the 225. Steve, first of all, Spy Catcher.
Yeah, another horse that goes exceptionally well fresh, and James Doyle riding for Carl Burt, which wouldn't be a normal association. And if you go back to this horse's form, a close third first time up behind Washington Heights and Mill Stream, who went on to win the July Cup, and the Abernant first time up at Newmarket last season. Previous to that, it won first time up at Thirsk on the seasonal return after nearly 10 months off the track previous that. Again, a winner in October, having missed 4 months before that. A winner after Pontefract after 6 months off the track. So this is a horse who runs his best races when first time up. And in a race like this, which there'll be enough cut in the ground. He does like a little bit of juice in the ground. And he finished last season by only being beaten 2.5 lengths in the Champions Sprint on Champions Day, when he probably wasn't drawn. I mean, he wasn't badly drawn. He was down the middle, but it was sort of dominated high on that occasion. So I think he's a horse that will run well first time up, and that could be the key with Spy Catcher.
DC.
Yeah, I'm going to take a punt on Iberian for Charles Hills. Look, if you look back at his 2-year-old season, he was really impressive. He finished second in the Vintage Stakes to Hatham, and then he beat Sunway in the Champagne Stakes at Doncaster over 7 furlongs. It looked like he didn't train on last year. He was last in the Guineas, and he finished 11 and 12 in a race in France. They gave him wind surgery, and he came back and he won. He won an all-way race at Suddle in December, so they seem to have got him going again. Charlie Hills did something similar with Royal Commando in this race a few years ago. He was a good 2-year-old, didn't do much as a 3-year-old, came back and won the Camage. So I am going to take a punt on him at about 9.0.
Okay, that's the Camage Trophy done and dusted. Take us to where we're going to next, because I've lost my tab. Who do you like at the next we're previewing? Go on, Dees.
The Doncaster Mile, the 3 o'clock at Doncaster. I like.
Oh yeah, I've got it back up. There we are. Right, you've got Botanical here for sure. Go
on. I like Botanical. I have liked this horse pretty much his whole career. Again, look, 2 very solid runs there last year at York. He's moved to George Bowie now, and he had 1 run for him in Goodwood there in the listed race towards the end of the season. Was well punted that day. They've given him wind surgery over the winter. He's back here again today. I just think that, look, if there's one horse in this that could probably be a lot better than one till I know this is a listed race, but I think he's top class, and I really, really respect George Bowie as a trainer in his young career. So I'm going to give him a shout there at about 5.0.
Steve, who you like?
Dancing Gemini, really fancy this one, who was a very good 2-year-old. First time up last season, was only beaten half a length in the French Guineas. Was only contested Group 1 races after that, apart from when the ground was too quick in the Celebration Mile. The Thoroughbred Stakes at Goodwood at the big meeting in the summer. Likes softer ground. The ground should be perfect. It'd just be on the easy side. Ran really well in the Derby. Was 6th in the Derby, but from a wide draw, but didn't stay. Ended the season with 4th in the QE2. And last season, Roger Teal, who I think is a really good trainer, his horses weren't in great form through the summer. And I think Dancing Gemini is just the type to really kick on as a 4-year-old. And this is a really good starting point, because we know he gets his ground. And if he's as good as he was first time up last year when second in the French Guineas, then he's the one to beat, undoubtedly.
My starting point was to take on Liberty Lane, who I don't think has ever fully cut it when going up in grade. I'm not sure why that is, whether it's field size. He can go fresh, but I wanted to be against, and I thought Check and Challenge is a good win place race. Check and Challenge at 17.0 was worth taking the horse on with. His best form has obviously come with a bit more cut underfoot, but then he did win on over in France on a sound surface in the past. A strong pace over this sort of distance, I think, is what he wants for all he stays a little bit further. And yeah, he's very capable. If a couple underperform, he's capable of getting close. I wanted to get him in the frame anyway, because I wanted a dart at a price against Liberty Lane. All right, that is Donny done. We now go to Kempton. So the Queen's Prize. Queen's Prize, first of all. I'm the only one we won in here. So this is Golden Rules. I just need to get the race up. Obviously it's another one off big old break. So it's a bit of could be anything. It's again, the angle is the horse is super fragile. So I feel like they're not going to be mucking around. The yard are in good nick as well. And I think they're just going to have a go here while they know that they've got a horse to go to war with. So how long has the horse had off? 637 days. I mean, to be fair, he's a bit shorter than he was when I put him up. But he goes well round the track. Previous course and distance winner. He's only had 5 runs since the 22nd of October 2020. So very fragile, and I'm sure they're just going to be going, while we've got a horse, let's get him out and try and get him to go and win this. So I think he'll be absolutely ready to go. So Golden Rules at what was 9.0, now more like 7.0. The Rosebery, we've all got a selection for. Steve and I agree. Steve, sorry, but we both like the same horse, Timesius Fox, for Andrew Balding. 1 of 3 in the race for him.
Yeah, and Oisin Murphy rides this one, and the angle for me is the Kempton form is very impressive. He's been an impressive winner both starts at Kempton in handicaps, and I think this is just the type of race that he'll show his best form. He can be a bit in and out, but it's certainly better on the all-weather than he is on turf, and I think he's become well handicapped. And I'd be very surprised if he didn't run very well to Mesius Fox, who I think is the second in the betting of the Andrew Balding trio. Mount Atlas, maybe the shortest, but I'd much prefer to Mesius Fox.
Yeah, Mount Atlas is definitely the shortest, then Timesius Fox, then the other horse in the same colours. I don't want to add much other than I like the angle of horses coming back to this surface, having run on the turf, and I'm sure they've had this race in mind, given the horse's previous form over the track and course and distance. So I thought he was pretty obvious, and I'm pretty positive about him. DC?
I'm glad to hear you think all that, Tom, because I have a horse of a very similar profile. I'm going for Killybegs Warrior. He was second in this last year to Kemham when he was trained by Charlie Johnson. As usual, ran 35,000 times during the season. They gelded him at the end of the season, and he's since moved to George Baker. He has had 3 runs out in Bahrain over the last 2 months. Seem to be running back into form. Again, look, he's a massive price. He is 26.0, and it was kind of the price that drew me to him, because look, he's been here and done it. He's only 5. Clever had the sun on his back for the last 2 weeks now, and again, hopefully he can, if he runs to a similar level of form as he did last year, he can definitely hit the frame. So at 26.0, he's a win place price.
That is very much a win place price. So 26.0 and a couple of shouts for Timesius Fox in the Rosebery. Then the Snowdrop, the 315. Nothing for me, but Steve and DC have got a couple. Steve, first of all.
Yeah, I wanted to take on Soprano, who's going to be a shade of odds on, I think. But a horse that has been beaten in so many listed races and did win a Group 3 last summer, but that was in France, and they're perhaps not as strong as they are in Britain. So I came down on Rose Prick, who was third in this race last year at 50-1. And although this potentially is a little bit stronger, she is a horse who does like this surface. And she hasn't got a great win record, but she's been in some deep enough listed races and run really well. So I think she's got a certainly win in place. I think Rose Prick will be primed for this and could go a bit better than last season. And there's other opposition as well. So I wanted to take on Soprano, and Rose Prick was the one at the odds that I liked, who's back 15. So win in place on Rose Prick, small stakes.
DC?
Yeah, look, this is just I wanted to take on Soprano. I'd probably back Shawari on the day as well if I see money for her, because there was so much expected of her last year. She just missed the season through injury, but he said after the Phillies mile that she was quite straightforward to train, so hopefully he'll have got her back. But I like the look of Ruby's from Burma or Henry de Bromhead's horse. I don't know how many horses he sent over to Kempton before, but I don't think there's that many. He's booked Oisin Murphy, and just the style in which she won her maiden at Cork last September, I thought was very good. This is probably just trying to get a bit of black type here. So she's 17.0. I'd go heavier on the place, 3 places and 4 place, and hope that she can cause a bit of a shock as well. Yeah.
I will never tire of hearing DC say Cork. It's just, it sounds fantastic.
Cork, I know.
Oh. Good.
Back
right, that's the Kempton action.
Sorry,
I love, by the way, in our comments, there's just people. There's just people chatting about Cheltenham in the comments. I love it. It's just there's a bit of flat chat, but it's mainly just Cheltenham debrief. That is the pull that Cheltenham is. Alex says, "Long live Langer Dan." I know, Dan Hussey. I'm so sorry he's been retired. What are you going to do? You want him go? You want him look at Cheltenham now, will you, Dan? But that's it. It's dead to you. Done.
Look, it's a bit of money saved for next year.
Imagine if he'd have beaten Constitution Hill at Aintree. God. Okay, any other bets? Steve, you got a few. Take it away.
Yeah, I like the 2 apprentice races on the back end of the card at Doncaster. If I can just get them up. They're again competitive races with big fields, which is just what we want. The first division, I've come down on Freddie Robinson, who's trained by Brian Ellison, who's got a couple of runners in here. But I do like Freddie Robinson, the profile that he brings into this race, given that he's been running over hurdles, and he's been running well over hurdles. Maybe not so good last time, but I think that was more to do with the fact that he was held up off the pace in a race where run at a steady gallop. And if you go back to last season, he must have been not the unluckiest, but he's been beaten a nose on 3 successive occasions. So he's only a couple of inches from landing a 4-timer, having won at Beverley first time up. And that win at Beverley was over 1.2 miles on easy-ish ground, which is exactly the scenario he's going to get at Doncaster. And I think he's still well enough handicapped to take advantage. So Freddie Robinson in the 4:45, which is the first division of that apprentice's handicap. And the second, I think, is even more interesting, is Laser Focus. And Laser Focus is another horse who looks, who has been over hurdles. He won a couple of times over hurdles in November, but he looks like he's bang out of form because he's had 3 runs on the flat and he's run rancid in all of them. But he just doesn't like the all weather. And you take his flat form on turf, and it's quite impressive. He's won 3 times from 8 starts. He's also been beaten a head and neck in runner-up and finished 3rd and 4th. So turf on the flat, he's got plenty of stamina. He won over 2.7 miles over hurdles, and they're going to go fast in this race. And I think that stamina will come to the fore. He's trained by James Owen, who's been in great form seemingly all winter, with both on the all-weather and over hurdles. he's got Fred Daly in the saddle who takes off 5, and I think Fred Daly's quite a good jockey for that kind of claim. So I think it's all coming together for Laser Focus, who's quite a nice price. I think 30. I think they're both about 13.
Yep, those are the two. Man about 13.0 and the 445 and the 520 at Donny. We come to Match with Zero long shot next. Reminder that goes live an hour before each race. Well worth having a win bet. It is win bet only if you want to get enhanced odds because there's zero margin, zero commission. Mine is Sean in the Lincoln, round about 41.0. Deasy. Coming again.
Mine is Iberian in the Cambridge in Doncaster.
And Jonesy, who's yours?
Spirit of Acklem in the 150, the Spring Mile for the Easter Biz.
You got a lay for us, Steve. I was nearly with you as well, Soprano. Just on the account that I thought she's at her best over a sort of a strongly run straight mile, but then I noticed that Deauville race was around a bend. But still, I think I'd be much more against than with.
Had so many chances in listed races and hasn't managed to win. Did win a Group 3, like you say, but it wasn't a great Group 3. Unproven on the surface and faces several interesting runners. I can't have her at odds on Soprano, so I'm going to lay her.
Have you said your bit on the draw, Steve? Just because there's a few guys talking about it on the chat. Do you have you said it?
Yeah, I wouldn't look at the draw in those big races. I think they'll probably come down the middle. Certainly in the Lincoln, that there's a lot of pace down the middle, and I think they'll congregate down the middle. I've gone for a horse who was drawn 3, and that the last 2 of the last 3 winners were drawn low. But then historically, you want to be high, and there's ones down the middle. So I wouldn't get hung up about the draw at all, even if you see what happens in the Spring Mile. I even wouldn't take that as red. I think it's going to be where the pace is, and in both races, I think it's more middle than anything, and that should draw them all along.
All right, best bets. Mine is Sean again in the at 41.0 in the Lincoln. That's the one main bet I'm going to be having. Win and place. Steve.
Dancing Gemini in the Doncaster Mile.
And DC.
Iberian in the Cambridge at Doncaster.
Good stuff. Thanks all. Don't forget the Pod 50 offer. More T's and C's about that on the website. And please head to insiders.matchbook.com for a recap of all of our bets. We'll see you twice next week for 2 Grand National podcasts. Have a great weekend all. Bye-bye.